Welcome to worship with First Baptist Church of Lawrence, Kansas. We are glad you have decided to join us this evening. Matt and I have decided for this Maundy Thursday service that we'll give the tech crew some time off and bring you a low-tech version of worship service this evening. So this service has been meant to be a little bit more casual, prayerful, contemplative, and it's just a time for us to be together and worship as one congregation. The music for this evening's worship service will be sung in the Taizé-style. Taizé is characterized by a simple melodic theme that's sung by the congregation at various points throughout the composition. This style of music is intended to be contemplative and prayerful. Although Taizé music is often sung with instrumental accompaniment, tonight we'll be singing a cappella, and my hope is that will add to the meditative nature of the music. The theme will be sung in Latin. The text, Mandatum Novum Dobis, Dicit Dominus, means a new commandment I give to you, says the Lord. Of course, we know that commandment is that we love one another as Christ loves us. We'll begin by repeating the Mandatum Novum theme a few times so that you can become familiar with the melody. Then we'll transition to a responsive litany. I will serve as the cantor, and you can join me at home when the Mandatum Novum theme is repeated. The green background will remind you that it's time to sing along. The session will end with a solo, and then, following Pastor Matt's homily, we'll end with the Mandatum Novum theme song as our benediction. This time, we'll sing the theme in a canon or round style. So decide whether you'll sing in group A, B, C, or D, and be ready to join when your group is indicated on the screen. Now let's worship together. Mandatum novum Dobis, Dicit Dominus, Dicit Dominus. Mandatum novum Dobis, Dicit Dominus, Dicit Dominus. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to pass from this world to the Father. He had always loved those in the world who were his, and would show his love for them right to the end. It was before the feast of the Passover, when they were seated at supper. Jesus rose from the table and poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet. Mandatum novum Dobis, Dicit Dominus, Dicit Dominus. Mandatum novum Dobis, Dicit Dominus, Dicit Dominus. Then Jesus said, "Do you understand what I have done to you? What I just did was to give you an example. As I have done, so also you must do. A new commandment I give to you. Love one another. Mandatum novum Dobis, Dicit Dominus, Dicit Dominus. Just as my love has been for you, so must your love be for each other. This is how I will know that you are my disciples, by the love that you have for one another. Mandatum novum Dobis, Dici Dominus. Mandatum novum do vobis. Mandatum novum do vobis, utiligatis in vicem, sic uti lexivos, sic uti lexivos, sic uti lexivos, dici Dominus, dici Dominus. Amen. 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 Amen.
Tonight, we celebrate one of the holiest nights of the year, Maundy Thursday. It is a chance to gather together as God's people to remember that last night that Jesus shared with his disciples on that Thursday before his death. We remember together, usually in a service of worship, the special meal that he shared with his disciples as they gathered around him. We remember the time that he knelt by their feet, washed their feet in a way to serve them. Remember the time that they sang a hymn together and left to go out into the garden to pray together. Now, when we think of Gethsemane, we think of a garden, but not a garden in the way that many of us are used to with potato plants and tomato vines, but a garden kind of like this, kind of similar to where I am right now, a grove of trees. They're near the, kind of on the edge, the western edge of the Mount of Olives. Gethsemane was a quiet place for Jesus to come and to gather with his disciples, a place for them to pray, a place for them to be quiet. Just like so many times in his ministry, he gathered them together, or even went off on his own to pray, to have a time of silence, to remember who God was in his midst. And so we remember what Gethsemane was all about, and remember that that's what Thursday is about remembering. And usually we do it in a worship service. We're able to wash each other's feet. We're able to share that special meal together. We're able to pray for one another, but not this year, because this year is different. But maybe not as different as maybe we think. Here in the middle of a shelter-at-home order, here in the middle of an epidemic, a pandemic, unlike anything any of us have seen before, we might think that this is nothing like a normal Maundy Thursday, but maybe it was a lot more like the first Maundy Thursday. I mean, think about Jesus gathering together with his disciples in a place kind of like this, a place that indeed had a quiet moment, a quiet space for them. As he did that, he was maybe a lot like some of us. He was afraid. He wasn't sure what was going to happen. He feared for his life. He knew that the government officials had control over what was going to happen, and there wasn't anything that he could do. He felt isolated. He felt like even some of the people that were supposed to care for him didn't, falling asleep, not doing what they needed to do. Maybe it's not that different from this night. Maybe it's not that different from the way that we feel in the midst of this shelter-in-place order. as we gather together, maybe we do so in a way that's different, but not that different. In fact, as Jesus came together with his disciples, we were reminded that even in these days, he was still teaching them. Even in these last hours, these last minutes, he continued to teach them. Maybe he continues to teach us as well. There in the last hours of Maundy Thursday, Jesus continued to show his disciples what it meant to follow him, what it meant to be his disciple. And so he taught them with that meal. He taught them a radical new way of unity, a way of gathering together, a way of being together, a meal that would pull them together for generations to come. He taught them, remember, do this in remembrance of me. And maybe, just maybe, tonight, we are learning a new kind of unity, a new way to be together, a new way to be family in these days, in these weeks, in these months. We're finding ways to reconnect digitally, virtually, a lot more phone calls instead of seeing each other for hugs and handshakes. It is a new way to be unified, but yet it is a way that Jesus calls us to, a radical new way of unity. Jesus called us to a radical new way to serve. Well, when we celebrate Maundy Thursday, what we're doing is we're remembering in a way that connects to that moment in which Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Now, the word Maundy actually comes from the same root that we get our word mandate, and it comes from the mandate that Jesus gave his disciples. He told them, I've shown you love, now you love one another. You show love now to each other. And as he did that, he showed them that. He gave them that mandate. He gave them that commandment. Be like this. Be like me. As he did that, he was able to show them a new way to serve one another. And isn't it so in these days as well? We've learned new ways to serve each other. We've learned new ways to be family together. We've learned new ways to connect with each other, to keep each other from feeling isolated, to keep each other from feeling afraid. We've reached out to loved ones. We've called our way through the church directory, trying to connect with people who might feel alone. We've done important service acts. Maybe we've given a little bit more if we're able, so that those who are losing jobs or are underemployed won't feel that sting or guilt. We've gone out of our way to help other people. Make sure, as our food pantry has shown, that even people who are hurting in these days have a place to be served at the church. Maybe you've done some things, to help those who are on those front lines, nurses, doctors, those who are there in the hospitals caring for those in need, those dealing with this horrible disease. And so you have learned a new way to serve, a new way to be servants, a new way to wash each other's feet. And I think Christ continues to invite us to wash each other's feet, even in these days, even in new ways, a radical way to serve. In the same way, Jesus taught his disciples, called his disciples to a radical new way to pray. Here in this place, here in a place like this, he sat down and prayed by himself, alone. Again, he prayed, John tells us, throughout the evening. He prayed for his disciples. He prayed for himself and his mission. He prayed for the entire world. Luke tells us that as he prayed in Gethsemane, he noticed drops of sweat pouring off of him. He was so fervent in his prayer. In the same way, he prayed for other people, even those who betrayed him. Indeed, Jesus showed us a radical new way to pray. He continued to show his disciples. And are we not learning that new way to pray in these days? Maybe we can't be around people, but we could pray for them. We don't have to stop praying. We don't have to stop being people of prayer. And it looks different, absolutely, in these days, but for sure, we can still be people who pray. And so Christ taught his disciples, even in those last hours, a radically new way to be unified, a radically new way to serve, a radically new way to pray. And Christ still teaches us on this Maundy Thursday how to be family, how to be unified, how to serve, how to wash one another's feet, how to pray, how to get down on our knees, and even as fervently as he did, pray, not my will, but thine. You see, Jesus knew that any time up over that western slope would come those ready to kill him, ready to drag him off to his death. And yet he prayed. He prayed a prayer of trust, a prayer of deep and fervent trust in his Father. Not my will, but thine. He continued to teach his disciples to the end, and he teaches us even in these days, even in these hard, difficult, complex, confusing days. Teaches us what it means to be church, what it means to be family. He knew what would come up that western slope. He knew it would mean his death. But he knew that some things never change. Even in times that feel like everything's different, some things are never different. The love of God is eternal. The service of God's people is forever. And the grace of that sacrifice will never end. May that be our hope on this Maundy Thursday and in all of these days. Grace and peace to you. Amen.
Mandatum novum Deo